topics are there, then the SN curve, then fatigue failure. Okay, likewise sessions, likewise the contents will be there. Okay, that we will see now one by one. So first we'll start with the basic one today, and then we'll go for the numericals. Okay, from gate point of view in next session. Okay, is it fine? Or in between, if you have any question or if you have any having any doubt, you can ask. Okay, so now we go ahead. Okay, so this is today's session one on machine design. So it is of 5 to 6 p.m. Okay, so 1 hour there will be the session. Okay, so now we will start with our today's discussion. So today just we'll go through the basic part. What is machine design and what are the various terms? Okay, and so the basic things we'll discuss today, and then we will go for the numericals, which will be morely related to the gate point of view. Okay, so first the what is machine design? So it is defined as it is use of a scientific principles, the technical information, and the imagination in the description of a machine or a mechanical system to perform the specific function with the maximum economy and efficiency. So if you want to perform any particular work, so to perform that particular or specific function with a maximum economy and efficiency, that you need to design or you need to describe one type of a machine or a mechanical system. And for that you need to go for the you have to use the various scientific principles or the technical information for that imagination of that particular description of that machine or the mechanical system. So this is nothing but machine design. So moreover it is totally related to the various technical data background, and you must know about the scientific principles. Okay, so then and then only you can imagine the machine, and you can design that machine to do the particular to do the particular task or the specific task. Okay, with maximum economy and efficiency. Okay, so now machine design is the creation of the plans for a machine to perform the design function. Then then machine may be entirely new in a concept, which performing a new type of a work, or it may be more economically perform the work that can be done by an existing machine. So it may be an improvement or enlargement of an existing machine for better economy and capability. Now, if you see now there is a lot of advancement in a technology, and now you can see there are a lot of advanced machine. You can see they are now totally atomized. Okay? But in last 20 to 30 years back, if you see the machine was not that much automated. That most of the machines are manually operated. So that is what you can do, the improvement or enlargement of an existing machine for to get the better economy and the capability. Okay, so now what is the basic procedure of machine design? Okay, just we will go through very fast. We will not take too much time. So here is the flowchart for that. First what you will do, the market survey. Okay, what is the need of the society? First you need to find out the need of the society. Once you will do the survey, once you will do the market survey, then and then only you will get idea about what is the need of the customer or what is the need of the society. Then and then you can implement your machine, or you can design your particular machine from the problem point of view of the society, or the from the problem point of view of the human being. Okay, then define the specification of the product. Okay, you can specification of the product you can define. Then you can study the alternative mechanism for a product and select proper mechanism. Then you can prepare a general layout of a configuration, and you can select the joining methods between individual component products. Yes, you are obviously that machine is having lots of component. Without the component assembly, their machine could not be formed. So machine is not a one single quantity, it is the assembly of many more parts. Okay, so you need to prepare the layout of the or the various machining parameters that you need to define. What machining you are going to do to manufacture that particular component, that you need to decide. And then designing the individual component. Okay, now then you have to decide which component is will be suitable and for that particular machine, and you need to manufacture that particular component. Or first you need to design that particular component, and then you have to manufacture it. Then you can prepare the assembly and detailed drawing and modified drawing after the testing the prototype model. Just you can prepare a model, you can test it, and if you found any problem in that particular prototype, you can again prepare assembly and detailed drawing, and then you can implement it in the market. So now what are the basic requirements of the machine element? Okay. So the machine element, which consists of a part of the machines and which has a motion with respect to some other parts. Okay. And which is called as a machine element. So machine and machine element. So machine is a one whole quantity, and machine element is there are lots of machine element. When you assemble it, your machine will get formed. Okay. So the machine elements can be classified into two groups, that is general purpose or special purpose machine element. Uh, so the machine element should satisfy the following requirement. That is, it should have good strength, it should have a proper rigidity, then it should also wear resistance. Okay, so these three properties that particular machine element should have, so that your machine will be get bulky, or your machine should withstand any upcoming any fluctuating load which is coming, or impact coming onto that particular machine. Then your machine should have minimum dimension and weight. Okay, it should have sufficiently strong, rigid and wear resistant at the same time, with minimum possible dimensions and weights. Okay, so it should not be like that the weight is too much high, the dimensions is also large one. Okay, so it should not be happen. So there should be a minimum dimensions and weight. Get. Okay, now manufacturability. Yes, the manufacturability means it is the S of the fabrication and assembly. Right, the shape and the material of the machine part should be selected in a such way that it can be produced with minimum labor cost. So that whatever the machine components you are going to manufacture, it should be manufacturable one. The costing of that particular part should be less. Okay, it should not be that much high. Otherwise, your machine cost will get increased. Okay, then safety point of view, again it should be safer one to the operator of the machine. The whatever the machine you are going to implement in the market, that it should be operatable one and safety one to the operator. And designers should assume that the worst possible condition and apply the fail safe or redundancy principle in such cases. So the conformance of the standard, the machine part should be made up with the national and international standards, which covering the profile, dimensions, grade, and material. And then the reliability, okay, reliability of the machine should be higher one. Okay, that machine should be a reliable one, and it should perform the function satisfactorily over its lifetime. Okay, the lifetime should be very higher one. It should not get damaged in 1 or 2 years or 3 to 4 years. The life of that particular machine should be higher one. That is, reliability should be higher one. Then maintainability, the machine part should be maintainable. If some after 1 2 years, if there's something maintenance will be there, so it should be that part should be maintainable. The part should be repairable one, or you can directly replace the parts. And the part should not be that much costly, so that the maintenance of the machine will be very easy. Okay, and that machine should be repairable one and serviceable one. Otherwise, if there is a maintenance or service point of view, it is too much more costly, then it is again it may hamper to the human being. Then minimum life cycle cost, that is life cycle cost of the machine part. It is the total cost to be paid by the purchaser for the purchasing the part and operating and maintaining its over its lifespan. So life cycle cost should be minimum. Now, the design of a machine element. So here is again flow chart for the design of a machine element. So the specify function of a element first. Okay. So आता machine element चं design करताना कुठल्या गोष्टी consider केल्या पाहिजे. So the first you need to specify the function of the element. Then you need to determine the forces which are acting on the element. Then select the suitable material for the element. Then determine the failure mode of element. Then after that you can find out the geometric dimensions of that particular machine element. And yeah, if you have found to something problem, then you can modify the dimensions for the assembly and manufacture and check design at a critical perception. Now you can prepare the working drawing of the element. Okay, so this is the flow chart you can follow for the designing of the machine element. Okay, in from gate point of view, sometimes they may be uh, maybe ask you question based on this flowchart. So you need to go through this properly one. Okay, sometimes they may change the what the arranging order. Okay, in that case you should know first there is a specification, then determining the forces likewise. Okay, So that flow chart you should remember. Okay. So because not for the gate point of view, but from your upcoming future point of view, what is the basic design of a machine element? What is the basic procedure for the machine design? That should be, you should know, that you should remember. Okay, now the material selection is the very important factor while designing any particular component, because the best material can serve you the desired purpose at minimum cost. Because the selecting the material as per the application is most important, so that it can serve your purpose at minimum cost. Otherwise, if there is a working is not that much heavy, or in that case if you select a very heavy material, so again it is costly one, and it will not serve your purpose very clearly. Okay, so now what are the factors you need to consider while selecting the material? The first, the availability of the material, then cost of the material, then mechanical properties of the material, and the manufacturing considerations. So these are the various four factors we need to consider while selecting the material. Now there are various types of a material like cast iron, okay, which is a alloy and of iron and carbon, which is containing more than 2% of a carbon. So this is the composition of the ordinary cast iron. Now what are the advantages? It is available in large quantity. It is having high compressive strength. The components which are made by this cast iron having complex shape without involving costly machining operation. Then the cast iron material have excellent ability to dam the vibrations. Then again it is more resistant to the wear, and the mechanical properties of the parts do not change between room temperature and 350 degrees Celsius. That is the advantages of the cast iron. Now what is plain carbon steel? Again it is divided into three types, that is low carbon steel, medium carbon steel, and high carbon steel. Now what is low carbon steel? When there is a carbon percentage is less than 0.3%, then it is called as a low carbon steel. Then it is popularly known as a mild steel, okay, which is soft and ductile, easily machined and welded. Okay, while low carbon content unresponsive to the heat treatment. Okay, heat treatment, that low carbon steel is unresponsive for the heat treatment. You can't do the heat treatment for that low carbon steel type of a material. Now medium carbon steel, which contains 0.3% to 0.5 percentage of a carbon, okay, and which is known as a machinery steel. Okay, it is easily hardened by the heat treatment. It is stronger and tougher than the low carbon steel, so well machined and respond readily to the heat treatment. Now, what is high carbon steel? When the material which contains more than 0.5% carbon, and it is known as a hard steel, okay, or tool steel, and it respond readily to the heat treatment. Okay, for the heat treatment purpose, the high carbon steels are used. Okay, and when they are heat treated, it attains the high strength combined with the hardness, less ductile than low carbon steel and medium carbon steel. And but the high carbon steels, they are the difficult to weld, and excessive hardness accompanied by the excessive brittleness. Okay, so these are the various properties of the low carbon, medium carbon, and high carbon steels. Okay, according to the application, you can use that. Now, alloy steel. Okay, so the now the commonly added element, which include the silicon, manganese, nickel, chromium, molybdenum, and tungsten. So the term alloy steel usually refers to the low alloy steel, and which contains 1 to 4% of a alloying element. Okay. The alloy steels have higher strength, hardness and toughness, higher hardenability, and they retain their strength and hardness at elevated temperatures. Okay. They are also have higher resistance to the corrosion and oxidation. Okay. Now silicon, manganese, okay, silicon increases the strength and hardness. Manganese which increases also hardness and toughness. Okay, and then nickel also increases the strength. Chromium also increases the hardness, wear resistance. So molybdenum. So likewise, these are the various alloys which are having their properties. Okay, molybdenum also increases hardness and wear resistance. Okay, so you once you can have these. If you are having this silicon magnesium in particular component, then that type of a properties of that material will get increased. So standardization, I think standardization, just will go through it. What is standards? Okay, so standards are used in various mechanical engineering design. Okay, the standards for material, for chemical composition, for mechanical properties. Then standards used for the engineering drawings of the component, and then again standards are used for the material, their chemical composition, mechanical properties, and heat treatment. So these are the standards. Now again, there are the various types of the standards. What are that standards? That is company standard, national standard, and international standard. Company standard means what the particular company they will use their standards, okay, or their group of system concern companies are if they are having there, so they will use that standard, and it is only limited for their company. The national standard is what BIS, that is Bureau of Indian Standard. Then DIN, that is German, SAE, USA, or BS, British Standard, UK. Okay, these are the national standards. And what are the international standards? That is ASM is there. Okay, then international standard ISO. Okay, the international standards are prepared by ISO, International Standard Organization. That is ASM is there. American Society for Mechanical Engineering. That there are lots of international standards where you need to follow while designing any particular component. What is aesthetic consideration and ergonomic? Okay, so aesthetic means what? It is the look or external appearance of the product. That is nothing but the aesthetic. And what is ergonomic? So ergonomic, it is the relationship between man and machine. Okay, and the application of the anatomical, physiological, or psychological principle to solve the problem arising from man-machine relationship. So, Aesthetic, just 1 minute. So the aesthetic is totally only you just check the external look of or the appearance of that particular product. If you take the example of a four-wheeler, first you will check the look or how the color or how the design of the outer car is there. Okay, first the appearance is most appealing while you are going if you want to purchase a car. First, you will look for the appearance, how the car is going to look. So appearance is the most appealing point in any product, not only four-wheeler. It is for any all components. And nowadays, now the majorly focus is on aesthetic look, because the most of the people firstly attract to the aesthetic consideration, aesthetic look, and then I think 70%, 60, 70% people they not go for the ergonomics. They go only for the aesthetic purpose, and nowadays it is playing a major role. Now ergonomic, if you consider means if you take the consider the seat of a driver in a four-wheeler, so it should be ergonomically designed. It should not be that much height, or it should not be lower one. Okay, it should be matched with all height person. It may be of the person who is having not that much height, or the person is having too much height. In such cases, that your seat should be designed such a way that it should be properly fit to the particular person. Okay, so this is the means it is the application of anatomical, physiological, and psychological. Okay, and to solve the problem which is arising from man-machine relationship. So man-machine relationship मध्ये ergonomic plays a major role. Okay, now, the sequential and simultaneous or concurrent engineering. So, most important, sequential and concurrent engineering. What is the sequential? So, concurrent engineering means it is defined as it is a design process that brings both design and manufacturing engineers together during the early phase of the design process. Concurrent म्हणजे जेव्हा तुम्ही डिझाईन करत असता त्याच वेळी तुमचे सगळे जे काही डिपार्टमेंट असतील, मग क्वालिटी असो, डिझाइन असो, मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग असो, they will come in early phase or first phase, and they will decide at the early stage what we are to going to do. But in case of the sequential engineering, here you can see the marketing department, then it will go to the design office, then it will go to the production, and then sales and service department. Means if something issue happen in a design office, then again the production will get hampered, then sales will and service will get hampered, marketing department will get hampered. But in case of a concurrent engineering, so all the departments they will work together, okay, and so that whatever the problems of each and every department will get sorted out in an early phase. So what will happen? The whatever the whatever your product that you are going to introduce in the market, it will introduce in very early stage, and whatever the problem that will get modified or that will get rectified in an early stage. But in case of a sequential design engineer, your product will get launched, then people will use it, and then they will also then they will give you the feedback, and then again you will work on it. Or in some cases the design department will do the design, and when it will goes to the manufacturing department, the manufacturing engineer can say, okay, this part we can't manufacture it, it is a complex one. The manufacturing of this part is complex one. So these problems will arise. Then again, he will notice to the give notice to the design department, yes, you change the design. So means it is what it is time consuming process. So that's why concurrent engineering come arises, and it is nothing but the coming all together department, like customer requirement is what is the sales and service, manufacturing, reliability, ergonomics, cost. So all will work together and they will finalize the process, the design and all things. Okay, so this is about the simultaneous and sequential engineering. Okay, yes, only three are over here. Are you getting bored? Yes, Bapu Sahib, Pallavi, Prachi. Yes, are you here? Are you listening? Okay, Pallavi, Prachi. Prachi, are you getting bored? Bapu Sahib, is it fine? Okay, 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 fine. Okay, we'll go ahead. So this is about the aesthetic, ergonomic, then sequential and concurrent engineering. Then the next part, now the factor of safety. Now what is factor of safety? So in every design, factor of safety plays a major role. Okay, and it is very necessary component because to provide the sufficient reserve strength in case of accident, because we don't know when the accident is going to happen. But okay, but unfortunately, if the accident takes place, but it should not be hamper or it should not be dangerous to the human being. So that you need to keep the factor of safety, that the necessary component which is called as factor of safety. Okay, now so factor of safety is defined as it is the material strength that is ultimate or yield strength divided by working or allowable stress. So for ductile material, okay, sigma is equal to yield strength upon factor of safety, and for brittle material, sigma is equal to ultimate tensile strength upon factor of safety. Okay, according to the material, we need to use this formula. So just we are going through the basic parts. Okay, then we are going for the problems. Okay, so this is about the factor of safety. Then the magnitude of factor of safety depends upon the following factors. Now, what are that factors? The effect of failure, the type of load, the degree of accuracy in force analysis, the material of component, then reliability of component, then cost of component, then testing of machine element, then service condition, then quality of manufacture. So these are the various factors which are dependent, that is factor the magnitude of factor of safety which is dependent upon these factors. Okay, so the this question is also more important, so you need to remember these points. Okay, so what type of a load is there, what is the effect of failure. Okay, so these are the various factors. Okay, where your factor of safety depend. Then now service factor. Now what is service factor? The Ka is the notation for the service factor. So in design process, the torque which is calculated from the power is called as the average torque, whereas the shorter duration, the mechanical elements are subjected to the high torque. Okay. So the high torque is accounted in a design process by a factor known as a service factor or application factor or overload factor, that is Ka. Okay. So K is defined as it is the ratio of maximum torque to the average torque. Okay, so it is the maximum torque to the average torque. Okay, so average torque म्हणजे काय? The torque which is calculated from the power. Okay, that P is equal to 2 pi nt upon 60. Okay, so that we calculate the torque from the power formula is the average torque. Okay, whereas for the shorter duration, the mechanical elements are subjected to the high torque. Okay, and that high torque is accounted in a design process by a factor is known as a service factor. Okay, so it is defined as the ratio of maximum torque to the average torque. So K is equal to T max, that is maximum torque, divided by TA, that is average torque. Okay. So what are the various types of a load? Okay. So the static load, fluctuating load, impact load. Okay. These are the three most important load. We will see it one by one. Then what are the various types of stresses? The tensile stress, compressive stress, bending stress, then direct shear stress, torsional shear stress, crushing stress. These are the six types of stresses, okay, that we will see one by one, and the types of loads, that is static, fluctuating, and impact load. Okay. So just we will see the stress strain relationship first. Okay, what is stress and what is strain first we'll see. So when a mechanical component is subjected to an external static force, okay, a resisting force is set up within the component. Okay, so when you are apply an external any static force, okay, the material will itself resist to that particular external or external whatever the static force which is coming onto it. Okay, so that internal resisting force per unit area of the component is called as a stress. Okay, so sigma T tensile stress is equal to force per unit area, which is the external force coming onto that particular component. Now here it is denoted by P. Okay, P is the what external force. Okay, that is force per unit area. That is the tensile stress. Okay, it is the internal resistance force per unit area. Okay, so here you can see the compressive stress. Okay, now the stresses are called as tensile when the fibers of the component tend to elongate due to the external force, and when you will say the compressive stress when the fibers tends to shorten due to the external force. Now here in that case you can see the compressive force is applied. Okay, so what will happen, the fibers of that particular component will get compressed. Okay, and in this diagram you can see the tensile load application is here on that particular component. The fibers of that particular component will get elongate due to that P force. Okay, so sigma C is equal to P upon A, that is compressive stress, and tensile stress, the formula is same. It is the resistance force per unit area of the component. Internal resistance force per, here you can see the internal resistance, that is sigma T, sigma C, that internal resistance, which that internal resistance which will oppose to that particular external force, static force. That is the point. Okay, so here is the tensile stress and compressive stress, that is P upon A. Okay. Okay, now we'll go ahead. So many times what will happen, the unit of stress or strength is taken as a MPa. Okay, so 1 MPa is what, 1 megapascal is equal to 10 raised to 6 pascal. Okay, kilo mega giga, kilo is 10 raised to 3, mega is 10 raised to 6. Okay, and giga is 10 raised to 9. So 1 MPa means 1 megapascal, which is 10 raised to 6 pascal. So 10 is to 6 into Newton per meter square. Okay. So you need to convert that Newton per meter square into Newton per mm square. That is 10 raised to 6 into n divided by 10 raised to 3 mm square. That is 1 Newton per mm square. So strain. Now we will see about strain. What is strain? The strain is the deformation per unit length, and it is given by, okay, here is the strain epsilon delta upon L, where delta is nothing but elongation of the tension rod, and L is the original length of the rod. Okay, change in a length, okay, upon original length. Okay, that notation is the strain. Okay, there is a no unit for the strain. Okay, so according to the Hooke's law, the stress is directly proportional to the strain within elastic limit. Therefore, sigma T, and this tensile stress, is directly proportional to the strain, where sigma T, the constant of proportionality, is a capital E, where that capital E is nothing but the Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity in Newton per mm square or MPa. Okay, so sigma T is equal to E into epsilon, that is strain. Okay, so strain is nothing but it is the deformation per unit length. Okay, so for carbon steel, the Young's modulus value, that is E is equal to, or modulus of elasticity, E is equal to 2,07,000, okay, Newton per mm square, and for the cast iron E is equal to 1 lakh Newton per mm square. So sigma T is equal to, okay, that tensile stress is equal to P upon A. So that strain is equal to change in length upon original length, that is delta upon L. Okay, but tensile stress is directly proportional to the strain. So sigma T is equal to E into strain, that is E is the constant of proportionality, which is Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity, and where delta is equal to, now if I will put that over here, E into strain and P upon L, P upon A. So just I will modify the equation and I will get delta is equal to P into L upon A into E. Okay, that is force into length upon cross-sectional area into Young's modulus. So you can find out the change in a length or elongation in a particular component by using this formula, P into L upon A into E. Okay. Okay, now shear stress and shear strain. Okay, so what is shear stress? Okay, when the external force which is acting on a component tends to the slide to the adjacent plane with respect to each other, then the resulting stress on these planes are called as a direct shear stress. Okay, here you can see the two plates are riveted by means of a rivet joint. Okay, and one plate is pulled by to the right side and one plate is pulled by left side. So what will happen? That riveted bolt will get fell like this. Okay, because of this the one part will move to the right side and half portion will move to the left side. So this is about the shear failure. Okay, so the average shear stress in the rivet is given by tau is equal to P upon A, where tau is nothing but the shear stress. Okay, and the P is the force. Okay, that whatever the tensile force applied on that particular plate, and A is the cross sectional area of the rivet. Okay, whatever the cross sectional area of the rivet you have to take. Okay, now the shear strain is defined as it is a change in the right angle shear strength. Here you can see the change in the right angle. ओके इकडे शियर स्ट्रेस अप्लाय केलाय ओके म्हणजे हा वरती हा खाली आणि इकडे when you apply such type of a shear stress, so there will be the change in the right angle on the shear element within the elastic limit, then the stress strain relationship is given by tau is equal to G into gamma. Okay, where gamma is nothing but the shear strain which is in a radian, and where G is the constant of proportionality and which is called as a shear modulus or modulus of rigidity. Okay, in Newton per mm square or MPa. Okay, so here is the relationship between the elasticity and rigidity. Okay, and the Poisson's ratio as well. So E is equal to 2 into G 1 plus mu. Sometimes the question may be asked you, they will provide you the elasticity and rigidity, okay, and they will told you to find out the Poisson's ratio. So such type of a problems may be asked. So there is a basic formula so that you should remember. So the gate preparation is nothing but you should know the basic things first. Then and then you because most of the papers they are based on the basic things. Okay, so there is not that much logic behind. Or they are not that much lengthy papers, so totally it is totally depends upon the basics. So if you have a basic is good, then you can solve the gate problems very easily. There are the tricks to solve the gate problems. Okay, so that you need to follow. You need to practice how I can solve the problem in minimum time and minimum steps. Okay, that is the main cracking the gate exam, that is the main point behind this. Okay, so you should know the basic formulas, basic things, then and then only you can solve the gate problems very easily and in very short period of a time. Okay, so here the G values they have given you for the carbon steel and gray cast iron, and the carbon steel mu is equal to 0.29 and for the gray cast iron mu is equal to 0.2. Okay, so now the next point, the bending stress. Okay, now what is bending stress? When let's consider here is a straight beam which is subjected to the bending moment. Okay, MB is the bending moment, and here you can see the bending moment. Okay, now it is totally bent in a vertical direction. Okay, here you can see the bending moment how it is applied, and the beam is subjected to a combination of tensile stress on the one side of the neutral axis and compressive stress on the other side. You can see here is a neutral axis. When you bend in upward direction, what will happen? The upper fiber will comes under compression and the lower fibers will come under tension. So here you can see the lower fiber is under tension, upper are in a compression. Okay, so when you bend it in a downward direction, what will happen? The upper fiber will come in a tension and lower fiber will come in a compression. Okay, so one side of the neutral axis is under compression and one side of the neutral axis is under tension. Okay, when beam is subjected to the tensile stress. Okay, sorry, tensile stress on one side of the neutral axis and compressive stress on the other side. Okay, when your beam is subjected to the bending moment. Okay, so here is the neutral axis you can see. Okay, so now the bending stress at any fiber, if you want to find out the bending stress at any fiber, how will you find out? For if it's a rectangular cross section, then I is equal to BD cube by 12. Okay, where and for if it is of a circular cross section, then I is equal to pi d raised to 4 by 64. Okay, and what is bending stress formula? That sigma b is equal to mb, that is bending moment into y upon I. Okay, where sigma b is the bending stress, okay, at a distance of a y, Okay, here is you can see the distance y from the neutral axis. Okay, and mb is the bending moment, which is the applied bending moment in Newton mm, and I is the movement of inertia of the cross section above the neutral axis. Okay, and here you can see if it is of a cross section is of rectangular, so directly you can take I is equal to bd cube by 12. If the cross section is of a circular one, directly you can take I is equal to pi d raised to 4, pi d raised to 4 by 64. So this is the most important formula to find out the bending stress. Okay, that is bending moment into y, that is distance from the neutral axis divided by I. Okay, so this is about the bending stress. Okay, now the next, torsional shear stress. Okay, okay, now let's consider this is a transmission shaft which is subjected to an external torque. Okay, it is empty, that is external torque. Okay, okay, as shown in figure, and the internal stresses which are induced, okay, one side is in clockwise and another is in anti-clockwise. Okay, to resist the action of the twist are called as a torsional shear stress. Okay, the stresses which are induced to resist the action of the twist. Here is a one is clockwise, another is anti-clockwise. That's why here you can see it is a twisting movement. So the internal stresses which will resist to that particular twisting movement, and the stresses which are developed are nothing but the torsional shear stresses. Now, what is the formula to find out the torsional shear stresses? Now, that is tau is equal to mt into r divided by j. What is mt? Mt is the applied torque. Here you can see the applied torque. Then r is the radial distance of the fiber from the axis of the rotation. Here is the axis of the rotation, and r is the radial distance from that axis of the rotation. Where j is the polar moment of inertia of the cross section about the axis of the rotation. Okay, so j is equal to pi d raised to 4 by 32. That is the polar moment of inertia of a solid circular shaft of a diameter d. Okay, so j is equal to pi d raised to 4 by 32. Okay, so in many problems of machine design, it is required to calculate the torque from the power transmitted and the speed of rotation, and this relationship is given by kilowatt is equal to 2 pi nmt upon 16 to 10 raised to 6. That is our regular formula. P is equal to 2 pi nt upon 60, but here it is in kilowatt. That's why you need to take that 60 into 10 raised to 6. Okay, where kilowatt is the transmitted power, mt is the torque. Okay, that is applied torque, and n is the speed of the rotation. Okay, so by using this formula you can find out the torsional shear stress. Okay, so this is about the basic terms: torsional shear stress, bending stress, shear strain, shear stress and shear strain. Then we have gone through the strain, then stress strain relationship. Then what are the types of a load? Okay, static load, fluctuating load, impact load. What is static load? The load which is gradually applied. A particular component is the static load. Fluctuating load means the repetitive load. Okay, which is having same magnitude or different magnitude. That is fluctuating load. And impact load means the sudden load which is coming on to any particular component. That is impact load. Okay, so these are the various types of load, and just we have seen about the various types of stresses, that is tensile, compressive, bending, direct, then torsional shear stress, then crushing stress. Crushing stress is nothing but when the two components where they are coming contact with each other and they are very tightly fitted, then there may be the chances of the crushing failure takes place of that particular component, or the crushing stresses will be there. Okay, so this is about the basics terms of the machine design. Okay, now just we will go for now just we'll see about the design of a shaft, keys and coupling. Okay, just we'll review that. So first we'll go for the shaft. Okay, so shaft is what? It is a rotating machine element which is used to transmit power from one place to the another. Okay, so the shaft main basically shaft is used to transfer power from one place to another, and in order to transfer the power from one shaft to the another, the various members such as the pulleys, gears are mounted on it. Okay, and these members along with the forces which are exerted upon them causes the shaft to bend. Okay, so bending will take place. Why? Because the pulleys, gears arrangement which are mounted on it. So due to that bending, sometimes the shaft is used for the transmission of the torque and bending movement as well. Now there is a basic difference between shaft and axle. Okay, so axle is what? Axle is a not it is not a rotating element. It is a stationary machine element. Okay, if you here you can see, just 1 minute. Okay, here is shaft and here is the axle. Now this shaft is a rotating one, but this axle is not rotating. It is a stationary element. okay, and it is subjected to the only transmission of the bending moment only, okay. It simply acts as a support for the some rotating म्हणजे इथे आता wheel असणार आहे, okay. It will act as a supporting element for the wheel as well as for the another members on that particular vehicle, okay. So here is a car wheel axle you can see, okay. So this is the gear, sorry, this is the shaft, okay, and this is the axle. So this is the basic difference between axle and shaft. Now what is spindle? Okay, so spindle is what? It is a short rotating shaft, okay, and the spindles are used in all machine tools such as a small drive shaft of a lathe or the spindle of a drilling machine, okay. Then what is counter shaft? It is a secondary shaft which is driven by the main shaft and from which the power is supplied to the machine component, okay. And then jack shaft. What is jack shaft? It is an auxiliary or intermediate shaft between the two shafts and that are used in transmission of a power, and its function is same as that of the counter shaft, okay. And what is line shaft? A line shaft which consists of a, okay, is am I audible? Hello. Yes, yes, okay, fine, fine, Aditya, fine. Is it are you getting bored? Okay, just okay, we will take it for 5 to 10 minutes more. Okay, Prachi. Okay, okay, we will. Okay, connection issues are there. Okay, no problem. Okay, we will take it for only 5 to 10 minutes and then we will stop. Okay. Okay. So where we are? So that here. Yes, here is a line shaft you can say. Okay, line shaft means what? It consists of a number of shafts, okay, which are connected in axial direction. Here you can see there are number of shafts, they are connected in axial direction, okay, and by means of a couplings, okay, couplings are used to connect that shafts, okay. So now what are the materials used for the shaft? That should have following properties, that it should have a high strength, it should have a good machinability, it should have a low knot sensitivity factor, it should have a good heat treatment properties, it should have a high wear resistant properties, likewise. Just I will go ahead now. What are the various types of a shaft? The transmission shafts are there and machine shafts are there. Here you can see the transmission shaft and these are the machine shafts. Okay, so the transmission shaft is what? It is usually refers to the rotating machine element. Here you can see the transmission shaft is a rotating machine element which is circular in a cross section and which supports transmission element like gears, pulleys, and sprockets. Okay, and machine shafts are the internal parts of the machine itself. Okay, the crankshaft is an example of a machine shaft. Okay. Now, what are the standard sizes? That is, here are the standard sizes of a transmission of a shaft, that is 25 to 60 mm, 60 mm to 110 mm, likewise. Okay. Now, shaft design on basis of a strength. Okay. So, on strength basis, you can first design a shaft. Okay. So, the transmission shafts are subjected to the axial tensile force, bending moment, or torsional moment, or their combination. So, the design of a transmission shaft, which consists of determining the correct shaft diameter. So main intention of the shaft design is the finding out the correct diameter. Okay, otherwise what will happen if as per the application your diameter is very less or very large, then your shaft is not going to sustain the bending load, whatever the load which is coming to that particular shaft. So finding out the diameter is the most important parameter in the shaft design. So on basis of a strength, first you need to design a shaft. So when the shaft is subjected to the axial tensile force, the tensile stress is given by sigma t is equal to P upon, that is force upon area, pi by 4 d square, where sigma t, once I will rearrange the term, sigma t is equal to 4p upon pi d square. Okay. When your shaft is under pure bending moment, so you need to use this formula sigma b is equal to 32 mb upon pi d cube. While attempting for the gate exam, your formula should be a very clear one. You should know the each and every formulas to find out the various parameters. Okay, so sigma b is the 32 mb upon pi d cube, where tau is equal to 16 mt upon pi d cube. Okay, So that is, you can find out the pure torsional moment. When your shaft is under pure torsional moment, you can use this formula. Tau is equal to 16 mt upon pi d cube, where sigma b is equal to 32 mb upon pi d cube. Okay. Now, when the shaft, also you can design on the basis of maximum principal stress theory or maximum shear stress theory. Okay, now according to the maximum principal stress theory, that tau is equal to 16 mt upon pi d cube. Okay, the principal stress sigma 1 is given by using this formula, sigma x by 2 plus square root of sigma x by 2 bracket square plus tau square. While the principal shear stress tau max is given by tau max is equal to square root of sigma x by 2 bracket square plus tau square. So these are the various formulas. By using that formula, you can find out the diameter of that particular shaft. Okay, where sigma 1 is equal to 16 upon pi d cube in bracket mb plus mb. Formula, this is very most important formula, mb square plus mt square. Okay. Okay, so I think we will not go in a detail for the shaft. Okay, so these are the various formulas you can use according to the maximum shear stress theory. Okay, then equivalent torsional moment, mb square root of mb square plus mt square is called as equivalent torsional moment. Okay, so equivalent bending moment formula. Okay, most important term, equivalent torsional moment, equivalent bending moment. So for the equivalent bending moment, mb plus square root of mb plus mt square, where mb is bending moment and mt is torsional moment. Okay, in case of equivalent torsional moment, it is only of square root of mb square plus mt square, and it is called as equivalent torsional moment, and this is called as a equivalent bending moment. Okay, these two formulas are the most important. Now the concept of the torsional equivalent torsional moment is used in the design of a shaft on the basis of maximum shear stress theory of failure. Okay, and the concept of equivalent bending moment is when to use when there is a maximum principal stress theory of failure. So these 2 points are most important. It may be asked you when the maximum shear stress theory of failure is used in the case of a equivalent torsional moment, and the concept of equivalent bending moment is when to use when there is a shaft designed on the basis of maximum principal stress area of failure. Okay, so this is about the equivalent torsional moment and equivalent bending moment. Okay, now on the basis of torsional rigidity basis, okay, you can design your shaft. Okay, so torsional rigidity basis, there is a formula that is theta r is equal to mt into L upon j into g. Okay, so final formula is theta is equal to, where theta is the angle of twist. Okay, 584 into mt into L upon GD raised to 4. By using this formula, you can find out the shaft diameter. Okay, when your shaft is designing on the basis of either torsional or lateral rigidity. Okay, so when your transmission shaft is said to be rigid on the basis of torsional rigidity, and if it does not twist too much under the action of an external torque. Okay, so this is about the shaft design on torsional rigidity basis. Okay, and these are the formulas, most important formula, that is axial tensile force. That formula you have to use when your shaft is under pure bending moment. So sigma b is equal to 32 mb upon pi d cube. When your shaft is under pure torsional moment, so tau is equal to 16 mt upon pi d cube. Okay, this is the maximum shear stress theory, that is under bending and twisting. Okay, this formula, and maximum normal stress theory under bending and twisting, that is when brittle material, you have to use this formula, that is equivalent bending moment and equivalent torsional moment. Okay, so these are the six formulas. Five formulas are the most important while solving the problem based on a shaft. Okay, then that is equivalent torsional moment, square root of mb square plus mt square, that is equivalent torsional moment, and me is equal to mb plus square root of mb square plus mt square, that is equivalent bending moment. So these seven formulas are the most important while solving for the problem. Now we will not go with the example. Okay, so this is the very lengthy one. Okay, and it will be consume more time, so just we'll go through the theoretical part. So this problem is totally okay, that ASME code is there. Okay, so ASME code, there is only one point, that maximum torque shear stress is equal to 0.30 times of yield strength we need to consider. Okay, so maximum shear stress theory, maximum principal stress theory, these are the formulas according to the ASME code. Then equivalent torsional moment, just you need to multiply KB and KT factor, where KB and KT is nothing but Here you can see the combined shock and fatigue factor, and KT is the combined shock and fatigue factor applied to torsional movement, and KB is applied to the bending moment. That is, you need to multiply only KB and KT to that particular factor. That is the only difference in ASME code. So the formula will be the same, only you have to multiply that KB and KT to that particular MB and MT. Okay, that is the only difference. And then again the problem. Okay, so that problem is not need to go through it in detail. Okay, so yes, so that we will see it in next lecture, the problem. Okay, so keys. Okay, I think we will stop here. In next session we will see about keys and various other factors. Okay, splines, what is couplings, what is threaded joint, welded joint, like this. Okay, so just I will share you the Google form link, just you fill that, or I will share over here in chat box. Just fill the feedback form here. Okay, and are you got the feedback form? Yes, in chat box, just I have shared you the feedback form. Everyone should fill that, so that I think okay, we will have the next session on a Monday. So just I will convey the message when we are having the session. Okay. So thanks a lot for kindly listening and patiently in meeting. Okay. So thanks a lot. Just fill the feedback form. Okay. Okay. And just tell to your friends to attend the GATE lectures. Okay. It is going to enhance your knowledge, not from GATE point of view only, but from your academic point of view. Okay. Thanks a lot.